The footage never made it to the news. It didn't need to. By the time Monday morning arrived, the video had been shared 4 million times. A grainy, phone-captured clip of a man in a wrinkled coat standing up slowly from a corner table at Aurelius, the most exclusive restaurant in downtown Chicago. Standing up slowly, the way a man does when he has decided something. But the clip starts in the middle of the story. It doesn't show you what happened before. It doesn't show you the folded napkin. It doesn't show you the waitress's hands shaking as she slipped it across the table. And it doesn't show you the moment James Whitmore Calloway III read what was written inside and went completely, utterly still. What did it say? To understand that, you have to go back to Thursday. James Calloway did not look like the 14th wealthiest man in America on Thursday morning. He looked like what he was wearing, a Salvation Army coat, 2 sizes too large, with a frayed collar and a grease stain near the second button. His shoes were scuffed. His 3-day stubble was deliberate. The single gold watch he normally wore, the one his father had given him the morning of his first board meeting, was locked in a drawer at his office on the 42nd floor. His assistant, Priya, had stood in the elevator lobby with the expression of someone watching a person walk calmly toward a cliff. "You don't have to do this yourself. We have investigators. We have—" "I know what we have." He'd pressed the lobby button. "This one is mine." Priya had learned in 6 years when not to argue. "I'll have security positioned on Wacker in Michigan. You'll have them stay in the car. James..." The elevator doors closed. The reason was this. 22 years ago, James Calloway's mother was a hospital cafeteria worker on the South Side, Grace Calloway. She was 53, diabetic, and had been on her feet for 11-hour shifts her entire adult life. She'd raised James alone after his father left, working doubles so he could attend a decent school. She was the kind of woman who remembered every coworker's birthday and kept candy in her apron pocket for the pediatric floor kids. One December, Grace had collapsed at work, not from the diabetes, from exhaustion. The hospital, the same institution that employed her, had billed her $34,000 for the treatment. The collections calls started before Christmas. Grace had never recovered her dignity after that. She'd grown quiet and small in a way James had spent 2 decades trying to understand and could not undo. She passed 4 years later. Unpaid debt, heart that had just stopped trying. James Calloway had bought that hospital 11 years ago, restructured it, fired the billing department's leadership. But Aurelius was his, or had been, before he'd sold a controlling stake to Marcus Hale, a man who smiled with every tooth and meant none of it. He'd heard the rumors for months. Turnover, supplier fraud, a culture that had curdled. He needed to see it himself, because the lawsuits were coming, and he needed to know if they were true before he decided whether to fight for the restaurant or let it burn. He needed to know if the place his mother had once called the kind of restaurant I'll never get to eat in, baby, but I'm glad you made it, was something she would have recognized, or something that would have made her invisible. He walked in at 12:15 on a Thursday afternoon, took the corner table no one wanted, and waited. The dining room of Aurelius was cathedral quiet and gold lit, white tablecloths, calla lilies, a sommelier who moved like water. To look at it, you would believe every review that called it transcendent, immaculate, a monument to hospitality. James had been sitting for 11 minutes before anyone approached him. The host, a young man named Derek, had glanced at him twice from the podium with the particular brand of contempt that passes for professionalism in expensive places. He hadn't moved. The server who finally arrived at James's table was not the one assigned to that section. She was in her early 30s, with close-cropped natural hair and the careful posture of someone who had learned to take up exactly as much space as the job required, and no more. Her name tag read Naomi. She set down a water glass with the quiet efficiency of someone who had done this 10,000 times and intended to do it 10,000 more. "Good afternoon," she said. "Can I start you with something to drink?" James ordered water, black coffee. He watched her go. He watched over the next 40 minutes as the dining room revealed itself. He watched Derek seat a couple in expensive clothes within 30 seconds of their arrival. He watched the sommelier linger at their table, laughing, and watched the tables near the window, the good tables, get refilled and fussed over and pampered. He watched Naomi work her section, the back section, the dim section, the section where people got seated when the host had decided something about them before they'd opened their mouths. He watched her do it without complaint, without drama, faster and more precisely than anyone on the floor. And he watched Marcus Hale emerge from the back at 12:47. Marcus Hale was the kind of handsome that photographs well and unnerves you in person. He did a slow lap of the dining room, touching shoulders, laughing, bending to hear things whispered by wealthy guests. He was wearing a suit that probably cost more than Naomi made in a month. He watched Marcus pass the back section without a glance. He watched Marcus stop at the server station near the kitchen, where a young sous chef named Eli was arguing quietly with Derek about something involving table 9. Eli's face was pale. He kept shaking his head. Marcus listened, said 2 sentences, and Eli stopped talking and looked at the floor. James ordered the soup he didn't want. He needed more time. It was while Naomi was clearing the adjacent table that James heard it, not because he was eavesdropping, but because Marcus had the particular arrogance of a man who had never learned that other people could hear him. Marcus was speaking to Derek near the kitchen pass, low voice, casual. "The inspector comes at 2. Make sure the Hendricks reservation gets the private room. He likes to feel important. The paperwork is backdated. Eli knows what to say if anyone asks about the Marchetti supplier invoices." Derek nodded like a man who had been nodding for years. James's hand resting on the tablecloth went still. Naomi was 3 feet away, her back to them, wiping down a table. From her posture, she had heard every word. She came back to James's table at 1:13 to refill his coffee. Her hands were steady. Her face was the practiced neutral of someone who had decided something. James saw her hesitate, just a fraction, a breath, before she set the coffee down. When she lifted her hand, there was a folded napkin under the saucer. She was already walking away. James waited 30 seconds, looked around, unfolded it. 4 lines, written small and fast in blue pen. "They're meeting the inspector at 2. Private room. He's paid. Documents are falsified. I'm sorry, I need this job, but I can't let you eat here not knowing." James Calloway read those 4 lines and went completely, utterly still. Not from fear, from recognition. He knew this handwriting. He recognized the shape of this courage. The courage of a woman with everything to lose, who decides that the truth is worth more than her safety. He sat with the napkin for a long moment. Then he took out his phone and sent one text to Priya. "Come in. Bring the file. Now." At 1:23, Marcus Hale noticed James for the first time, and not in the way James had anticipated. Marcus noticed Naomi. He had seen her speak to the man in the corner. He had watched her face during his conversation with Derek. He was, for all his flaws, sharp about threats to himself. He crossed the dining room with a smile and stopped at Naomi's section. "A word," he said pleasantly. He walked her toward the back, not the kitchen, the corridor near the wine storage where 3 other servers stood pretending not to watch. James could not hear the words. He didn't need to. He watched Naomi's face as Marcus spoke. He watched her lift her chin slightly, the way a person does when they are deciding whether to break or hold. He watched Marcus gesture toward the door, the universal grammar for "you're done here." He watched Naomi untie her apron. She walked back through the dining room with her head up, her jaw set, her eyes not finding anyone's. She picked up her bag from behind the host stand. Derek didn't look at her. She walked to the front door. And James Calloway stood up. He stood slowly. the way a man does when he has decided something. "Mr. Hale." His voice carried across the dining room the way voices do when they are no longer performing anything at all. Marcus turned, looked at the man in the frayed coat, smiled the automatic smile. "Sir, if there's an issue with my name is James Whitmore Calloway." A pause. "I retain a 41% stake in this property through Calloway Meridian Holdings. I've been sitting in your dining room for the last hour, and I'd like you to stay exactly where you are." The dining room was very quiet. Marcus's smile did not move. His eyes did. James reached into the coat's inner pocket, the one place he hadn't compromised, and placed his phone on the table. The voice memo had been running since 12:47. "The health inspector arrives in 31 minutes. I have the name of your contact and the amount of the payment. I have the supplier invoice discrepancies Eli can speak to, or Eli can choose not to, which is also his right." He looked at Eli, standing frozen at the kitchen pass. Eli's eyes went to the floor. Then, slowly, back up. He nodded once. "I also have," James continued, 12 former employees who have agreed to speak on record, and the attorney who filed the wage theft complaint 3 months ago, whom your legal team told to expect a long fight." He picked up the phone. "She's actually outside." The front doors opened. Priya walked in, followed by 2 attorneys and a man in a city inspector's badge that was absolutely not the inspector Marcus had paid. Marcus Hale's confidence did not collapse dramatically. It did something worse. It just left, like air from a room. "This is..." He looked around at his dining room, his staff, his tables of guests who had all stopped eating. "You can't..." "I'm not doing anything," James said. "The city is doing something. I'm just the reason they're here today instead of next month." 2 officers appeared at the service entrance. Marcus was escorted out through the kitchen. He asked once for his lawyer. No one answered. At 2:15, the dining room had emptied. The attorneys were in the back office. Eli sat at a table near the kitchen, a glass of water untouched in front of him, speaking quietly to a woman with a legal pad. James found Naomi outside, on the sidewalk, her bag over her shoulder, watching the street with the focused calm of someone doing the math in their head. He sat down on the bench beside her. She didn't look surprised. "You knew," he said. It wasn't quite a question. "Your shoes," she said. "The coat was right. The shoes were wrong. Men who've been poor don't wear shoes like that." She paused. "Also, you didn't look at the prices once. People who worry about money always look at the prices." A silence. "Why did you do it?" he asked. "You knew the risk." She was quiet for a moment. Her daughter, Imani, was 7 years old and asthmatic. The job had health insurance. The job was the insurance. She had known all of that when she wrote the note. "My mother cleaned offices for 30 years. She used to say, 'Naomi, the only thing they can't take from you is what you decided to do when it cost you something.'" She looked at him. "I couldn't watch them poison someone and say nothing. I don't care who you are." James was quiet for a long time. "She sounds like someone I knew," he said. He offered her the interim general manager position 2 days later, in a short meeting with no ceremony. He explained what the restructuring would require, the hours, the difficulty. He did not promise her it would be easy. "I'm not offering this because you helped me. I'm offering it because you're the only person in that building yesterday who acted like the reputation of the restaurant was worth protecting." Naomi looked at him for a moment. "I'll do it," she said. "One condition." He waited. "Derek stays. Not in his old job, but he stays. He's 23. He learned that from somewhere. He wasn't born like that. He gets a chance to learn different." He held his gaze. "That's how I'd want someone to treat my daughter if she ever made the same mistakes." James Calloway was quiet. "Agreed," he said. Aurelius reopened 11 weeks later. The menu was almost the same. The dining room was almost the same. Calla lilies, white tablecloths, the same quiet gold light. But the host stand was different. The seating process was different. The back section was gone. Every table was a good table now, or none of them were. On the first Friday of service, a woman came in alone, older, in a good coat that was good for a long time. She stood at the door looking uncertain, the way people look when they're not sure they belong somewhere. Naomi came from across the room herself. "Good afternoon," she said, and smiled the way her mother had taught her. Full, no performance. "One?" The woman's shoulders came down. "Yes, please," she said. "Just one." "Best table in the house," Naomi said, and meant it, and led her there. Behind the new host stand, in a small frame, is a folded napkin, the original, preserved under glass. Beside it, a small brass plate. The bravest thing in this building cost one person everything. We don't forget that. People ask about it sometimes. Naomi always tells them the short version. The long version is this story. Dignity is not earned by wealth. Power reveals character, and the people with the least to gain are often the ones with the most courage.